Hello, everyone. My name is Stanley St. Rose, and today we're going to be talking about Angela's Ashes, written by Frank McCourt. Now, before I go into summary analysis of this work, please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and/or comment so that the channel can continue to grow. Now, Angela's Ashes is a very interesting and somewhat disturbing book. Um, you know, Frank McCourt here in this memoir, because this book is a memoir. He gives us some background information about his mother before he was born and about his family. It's really this is memoirs like this are very interesting because they give you insight into where a family is coming from, and what may have caused things to happen the way that they happen within the work. Um, After he gives us some background about him, his family, his mother, we do follow in a chronological order. There you go. A chronological order, we follow the story. And pretty much what happens is Angela meets this man by the name of McCourt, and they meet in New York, and quickly, Angela gets pregnant, and she's pregnant with Frank, and the couple, they get married, they become a family very quickly, but it's not, again, it's because that, she's pregnant. So they're like, well, we got to get married. We got to uh, be a family. And after that, several other children are born. But out of all the children, three children die. It's really sad. And Malachi, the father, he's supposed to be the father figure, the leader of the family. He just keeps abusing alcohol. When he gets a job, he loses the job. Angela's family, her mother, grandmother, her family pay for her to go back, or for the whole family to go back to Ireland. And then, Malachi, he's not really, he can't find a job. His alcoholism, the part of Ireland that he's from, all of that becomes a factor. From not being able to get a stable job, from working to England. He's not reliable, he's not dependable, and when it came to a certain point within the work, he just fades away from the memoir. He fades away from his family's life. So he's a horrible father figure. And this is something that happens to a lot of couples. A woman meets a man. They start a family because so and so. The woman gets pregnant, and they try to make a family, but the father, he wasn't really in it. It's kind of like a rush marriage, a rush put together of this family. And ultimately, the family is just struggling. Frank McCourt, he's very strong, pretty much from his early teenage years, 13, 14. He's pretty much on his own, trying to figure out how to survive within this world. He had to grow up very fast. His father wasn't doing his job. His father wasn't taking care of the family. Angela, even, she had her own pride, but she had to rely at certain points on government aid and charity, which is, she didn't want to be that type of person. She does later on become a maid and supports herself, but certain dark things happen. I mean, they end up moving with a cousin by the name of Layman. Um, Layman is a cousin of Angela, and they start ancestral relationship. They start having sex, and this is very disturbing. Frank has to witness his own mother with her cousin starting this type of relationship because Angela needed help. She moved in with Layman, and this incestuous relationship just began. It's very disturbing that something like that would happen when your mother, when everybody's down on their luck. And so the story goes on. Frank does ultimately get kicked out of Layman's house. Layman wants Frank to empty his chamber pot, and there's arguments. They just didn't get along, and Frank ends up moving with an uncle. He has to steal. I mean, throughout this work, Frank is doing all types of things. He's stealing. He's doing anything that he can to survive, any odd jobs, physical labor, reading to people, collecting debts, whatever he can to earn some money. Ultimately, he actually saves enough money to get passage to the United States, the new world where there's ample opportunity to make money and to have a living. Frank's relationship with his mother they mended a little bit. Again, Angela does become a maid, and she does leave Layman's house, and we hope that that's good. Yeah, that incestuous relationship needed to stop. But yeah, ultimately she gets a job as a maid, and she does leave that house of horrors. And her relationship with her son does get better. But ultimately, Frank, he had to, from 13, 14, he had to fend for himself. And this work is not just about him fending for himself. It's him, discovering what it means to be an adult. This is also a memoir that's kind of like a growing of age story for Frank, because he had to figure out how to support himself, his family. It's him developing as a human being, even him having his first sexual encounter with a woman, with him deciding what to do with his life, ultimately going towards, moving to America for a better life. Him dealing with his mother and the choices that her mother had to make, and also having to watch her mother do certain things that pretty much it really came to, her circumstance in life. The father was a horrible father, not supporting the family, drinking lots of alcohol, not paying the bills, not being there for the family, him having to step out early to support the family, to support himself as much as he can, and him also having to deal with Layman and the choices of his own mother, and the moral and ethical implications of the choices of his own mother. Yeah, and the work really, it we can say it ends with him going to America. In terms of deeper meaning and analysis, I mean, this work, there's many different ways you can look at it. Angela's Ashes, I mean, her life it's somewhat grim. I mean, you have so many kids that die. You're with a man. Your first son is on the way. You get married. You get together. You think you're gonna be happy and everything, but things don't end up the way you want. You have several kids that you give birth to that die. You have to enter into all types of different relationships, to survive. Your kid looks down at you for entering into that relationship with your cousin. And of course, it's incest. It's wrong. And again, they live in a very Christian, a Catholic community. So you can imagine what that mentally and spiritually what that means, and also your son having to watch that. So the memoir can be one of like of you can view it as misery, Frank's misery and what he had to go through to exist within this world. You can look at it as how dysfunctional this family was. I mean, it was dysfunctional from the beginning. The way in which Angela and Malachi, the way that they met, the way that they got together, it was doomed from the beginning. Frank's father's alcoholism, all of that, just rolled into one. It's somewhat also inspirational because for Frank to have been born within that community of all that pain and all that that struggle all of that struggle to survive, and for him to somehow make it through and find the strength to make a life for himself is very significant. But this work is also, it's we're looking at Frank's character, how he develops as a young man and into a human being, how he supports himself, how he even had to step out of the lines and steal a little bit to support himself. Him having to make decisions about his first sexual encounter, and how he meets this girl when he's 14 and she's 17. He meets this girl, he has a sexual encounter with her, and then she dies of tuberculosis. And from a Christian perspective, what he thinks about that, and he's looking at it, well, this is God, because like we sinned, and she's not my wife, and you can see how all of that, we're looking at Frank's mentality, his mind, his character, and how he views the world and how he views his mother. um so we see that the religion part of this work, and also the survival part of this work. So there's a lot of growth in this work, both for Angela and both for Frank. Ultimately, they both do end up in a better place. Angela, she has fun. Well, she's working. She's a maid. She has access to money now, and Frank goes to the United States. So in some ways, the work does end up in a happy tone, but also these characters, they did have to go through a lot to grow up and to also survive. Yeah. So that's all I have to say about this work. Please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and or comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.